Coming up next on Arizona Horizon, we'll look at the importance of national parks on this 100th anniversary of the National Park Service. And a new book focuses on Phoenix as the future of the suburban city. Those stories next on Arizona Horizon.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you.
Good evening and welcome to Arizona Horizon. I'm Ted Simons. The Behavior Research Center is out with a new poll that shows Democratic presidential candidate Bernie Sanders leading all Republican contenders in a head-to-head matchup. The numbers show Sanders with 54% when faced off against Donald Trump's 33%, and Sanders would defeat Ted Cruz and John Kasich by 14 percentage points each. The same poll shows Hillary Clinton ahead of Trump by 7 percentage points, but the numbers also show Clinton losing to Cruz by 5 percentage points and by an even larger margin to Kasich. The Behavior Research Center says that growing dissatisfaction with politics in Washington and Arizona appear to be contributing to the reshuffling of traditional loyalties and confidence in political parties. Also today, Arizona House and Senate leaders say they've reached an agreement with Governor Ducey on the state budget. The leaders indicate that a tentative deal was reached Saturday and that a budget with the possibility of new funding for education and state infrastructure, along with an $8 million tax cut to aid small businesses, should be introduced and approved later this week. Well, this is the 100th anniversary of the National Park Service. Back in 1916, there were 35 parks and monuments around the country. We now have 411 areas managed by the Park Service. The growth is impressive, but there are concerns about costs of maintaining those sites. Joining us now are Sue Black, Executive Director of Arizona State Parks, and Sherry Plowman, Superintendent of the Southern Arizona Office of the National Park Service. Good to have you both here. Thanks for joining us.
Well, thanks for having us.
And we're going to talk, obviously this is a celebration of the National Park Service, but as far as Arizona's parks are concerned, how do Arizona parks coincide? How does that dynamic work with the National Park Service?
We've been working on, you don't have a celebration of this magnitude of the 100th anniversary and start on it. For about a year now we've been working together on it. And we've been working with all the different park agencies, whether it national parks, state parks, county parks, local parks. I think the public really likes to do their activity and they not necessarily care about the jurisdiction and who runs them. So that's why trying to bring the spirit of collaboration's really been, it's been fun to work with.
And as far as the National Park Service is concerned, what is the mission of the Park Service?
Well, the mission is to preserve and protect for the future, the current and future generations, our visitors. And as Sue said, our partnership, celebrating our centennial, our partnerships are Find Your Park. That's one of our campaigns. Mm-hmm. And so what Find Your Park means to any visitor is at any park, whether it be national, state, a ballpark, it's that place that you find your park. So.
Indeed, and when we talk about National Park Service, people think about bears and trees and big open spaces and everything, but trails, parkways, memorials, those are part of the Park Service, correct?
Yeah, monuments and National Historic Landmarks. I mean, throughout our state we have several. We just don't have only 22 National Park Service units. We have more, like you said, national trails. We have National Historic Landmarks.
Yeah, the scenic trails and the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
So, the mission of the state parks, similar?
Yeah, very similar. One of the things that's in our mission statement that I like, it says in our parks and through our partners. And it was funny because I was here in the 90s as the chief of operations for the state parks and actually was part of writing that mission statement. So I take that partnership part of it, really seriously.
And as far as differences between national parks and state parks, what are they?
State parks is better. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
I don't know if there is that much difference. I mean, but when you look at something like the Grand Canyon, obviously is one of the wonders of the world. But when you look at some of our other properties, I think we probably have more in common than we have differences.
One of the things in common, and we know because we've talked about it many times on the show, is the state parks have had some funding concerns.
No.
Challenges, yes, difficult.
Yeah.
As far as the National Park Service, I understand that there's a huge backlog of maintenance costs. Talk to us about that. How are you going to address that?
So the way we're going to address it, and it's called deferred maintenance, and you're right, it's one of our publicly type because it means to our visitor. It's how are we keeping care of those resources? Keeping up the visitor center, making sure the restrooms are conditioned and have toilet paper. And so we're making an initiative with our Floria dollars, which comes from the Park Pass that our visitors pay for, that we will put it towards that deferred maintenance. It's not enough. I mean, when you talk about wastewater systems and, you know, all the things that we have to take care of in business.
Hiking fees, mining fees, logging fees. I mean, a $12 billion maintenance backlog, that's pretty substantial. Can those things, how much can they actually help?
We actually don't have fees like logging fees.
Oh, you don't have
no,
those? Oh, I
that's
thought you
Forest
did.
Service, yeah. We have special use permit fees and stuff, but our main income from the visitor is that Park Pass that they purchase.
Right.
That's other than our base budgets that we get from
Interesting.
Congress.
So you do need some funding help here from
Yes.
Congress.
Yes.
And you do need some funding help
Yeah.
from the legislature.
Well, that, and I just think you need to be really creative on how you market your properties, the amenities that you're going to put out there, all your revenue streams. You know, you just really need to look at that and capitalize on them with keeping the integrity of the resource. I like to call it infrastructure renewal, because deferred maintenance sounds like you haven't been doing your job so much. But I like to look at that infrastructure, and if you look at the history of the Park Service, you know, I think when you have a big anniversary date, it's time to look back at where you've been, kind of reassess, and look towards the future, and to see what, you know, Teddy and the visionaries back at then, you know, what do they call it tonight with Ken Burns,
Yes.
America's Best Idea, which I hope everybody watches.
It starts tonight
Yeah,
again.
yeah, it's a great series if anybody hasn't watched it. But is to really look at what we're going to do to keep that vision for the next century, and what's our mark, and what are we leaving the systems that we run in better shape than we got them in.
Can that vision include conservationists working with business interests, public, private, these sorts of things? Do we see enough of that? Can we see more?
Oh, we see a lot. I mean, part of, you know, what we are as the National Park Service or any of our parks, it is what the people give to us. I mean, it is how much people love those treasures
Yes.
that we are taking care of, you know, and want to help preserve that. So, yes.
So back to my previous point, how about the idea of logging fees and mining fees and these sorts of things?
Well, and our mission is different as far as logging fees. That's more kind of a Forest Service mission, because we really are to protect and preserve our resources.
Okay.
So we would not.
So I don't get any credit for a great idea there? I'm trying. I'm just trying to get some money into the coffers here.
Right,
because, I mean, it's
absolutely.
always a challenge, isn't it?
Yeah. Our revenues at the state parks are continually going, you know, on the rise. Well, this year I think we'll hit 14,500,000 is a lot for us. And if you look at that chart, it's an encouraging future. And in your opening remarks about the governor and the legislature coming to a budget agreement, I'm very hopeful in the budget this year. I'm the first parks director that Governor Ducey has appointed, and in my conversations and coming on board with him, I think it's a great partnership already, but he really supports the park system, and we're having our 60th anniversary next year. And one of the things that I sat down and set the goal is I want to win the gold medal, which in our industry is the best park system in the country, against the other state park system. So my goal is to really turn this ship around in short order and bring that gold back to Arizona. So we have those bragging rights, and so people want to come and visit the park system, and then the tide raises all ships, so that hopefully the revenues will go up, and then we get to retain those revenues.
As far as the National Park Service is concerned, goals, vision for the future, what do you see in the next 100 years?
Keep preserving it, keep taking care of it, bringing to Arizona the economy. I mean, we had, like Sue said, we had 11.7 million visitors, which brought about 900,000 to our state in economic benefits. 15,000 more jobs to our gateway communities for our parks.
It's a great goal, it's a great vision. Can it get done, especially when the economy goes topsy-turvy like it did 10 some odd years ago?
You know, it does, and as Sue said, you know, we have to look at the reality of it. You know, what is it that we can take care of? Maybe we can't take care of every visitor center, every historic building, or, you know, so we scale it down so that we make sure that we still are meeting our mission for the public.
All right, very good. Good to have you both here. Thank you so much.
Can I give you something?
Sure.
I've got a gift
I'll
for
take
you
anything.
for Kartchner Caverns. We just won best state park or best cave in the United States.
Did you?
Isn't
Did it
that
really?
cool? Yeah, it
That's
won
fantastic.
best by.
Thank you very much for
Yeah,
this.
absolutely.
And
we've
thank
got
you
some
both
other
for
things
being
you.
here.
Yeah,
Appreciate it. Thank
yeah,
you.
happy anniversary.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Tonight's edition of Arizona Sustainability focuses on how so-called suburban cities such as Phoenix manage to survive and in many cases thrive. A new book takes a look at Phoenix as offering lessons on the future of the suburban city. Here now is the book's author. Local attorney Grady Gamage Jr., a senior fellow at the Morrison Institute and a senior scholar at ASU's Julianne Wrigley Global Institute of Sustainability. Busy man. And you have found time to write a book.
Broad and shallow. That's
Yeah.
my goal in life.
Right,
Broad and shallow.
I hear you. Talk about Phoenix as an improbable, because this book starts off with Phoenix as the improbable city.
Yeah, and you know, I put the Haboob moving into Phoenix on the cover because it got so much national publicity when we had that big Haboob move into town, and that seemed to everyone to be like the place is going to be wiped out. And at the end of the Haboob, which lasted about 40 minutes, the biggest consequence was that your swimming pool was really dirty. And that's kind of a metaphor for me, that people view Phoenix as kind of presumptively unsustainable. Now, part of that is when you name your city after a bird that periodically burns itself up in a funeral pyre, you're kind of inviting scrutiny about whether or not you're going to last. And so I think there is this belief that this is a impermanent place in a hostile environment that is destined to blow away someday. And you know, I looked at a lot of the literature about cities and sustainability ratings of cities, and Phoenix is not rated well on most of those sustainability indicators. I think most of those are wrong. I think they view it incorrectly.
Well, let's start with some of those criticisms. Phoenix as unsustainable. You say blowing away in the wind, whatever the case may be. The fact is, there's a lot of folks living out here in not only a hostile, but a fragile environment. The desert is a very fragile place.
Right.
I mean, is it sustainable?
Yeah, I think it is. I think that the cities of the arid West are no more or less sustainable than other cities. I think all cities have challenges. The challenges here may be a little different. Certainly water management has been a major challenge of sustaining a city here. But I think what's misperceived is the belief that that's a challenge that is impossible to meet. We wouldn't be here if we hadn't figured out how to meet the water management challenge. That doesn't mean, you know, we can rest on our laurels, but it does mean that that's the kind and character of a challenge we can deal with. The heat is another example. Again, different cities have different climate challenges. Hot is something we understand. It's something we've been able to deal with for a long time. Climate change will probably make it get somewhat hotter here, but that's the same character of challenge we've had in the past, unlike sea level rise in lower Manhattan or in New Orleans. That's a big different thing they're going to have to deal with in the future.
I know we had, in your book you mentioned Andrew Ross, world's least sustainable place, Phoenix, Arizona.
Bird on Fire,
Yes.
Andrew's book about Phoenix is called Bird on Fire, Lessons from the World's Least Sustainable City. And I've done a bunch of debates with Andrew, and frankly, he doesn't even try to defend the subtitle. And I recommend his book to people. It has a lot of insights about this place. But I don't think this is the world's least sustainable city. I think that's a misperception.
Simon Winchester, you quote, one of 3 U.S. cities that should never have been built.
Yeah, that I give Andrew more credit for understanding Phoenix than I do Simon Winchester. Simon Winchester wrote a book about the San Francisco earthquake in the early 20th century called A Crack at the Edge of the World. And at the end of an interview on NPR and one on PBS, I heard them both, he would go off on a tangent of a bit and say that the 3 American cities that should never have been built were San Francisco, New Orleans, and Phoenix. San Francisco because of the earthquake fault, New Orleans because it was just post-Hurricane Katrina when he said this, and Phoenix because there's no water there. Well, if the first 2 of those are true, those are bigger challenges, frankly, than Phoenix's water challenge. Water is a portable commodity. Any city is by definition a concentration of people that draw on a larger area of resources. We just have to move water farther than most places do, but other places have to move concrete or steel or food long distances, and moving water is something we figured out a long time ago.
We have figured out, but we've also figured it out by way of the Colorado River in great part. And there are those that argue that the Colorado River allocations are always iffy. I mean, they're there, they're contractually obligated, but it always seems as though there's a fight just laying right under the surface.
Well, and that's right, there is. And you may have seen in the Arizona Republic this morning that Tom Boshatsky, the director of the Arizona Department of Water Resources, is following a great Arizona tradition, which is to be out in front on water challenges, not to lead from behind, but to think about and anticipate them. And Tom has been out negotiating what just became public in a very embryonic form. It's not a done deal yet. It would actually have us take some more shortage earlier point in time. But in exchange for that, we wouldn't have to take all of the shortage at the end. You know, to get the CAP built, we became the junior right holder in central Arizona. Well, this would begin to give us some protection against the impact of that, and that's a really good thing.
Okay, so the future of the suburban city is the title here. Define suburban city, and is there a future for that thing?
Yeah, okay, so what I mean by suburban city is the post-World War II city, which grew up largely based on the automobile, which is largely an urban fabric of single-family homes. In Phoenix's case, relatively dense single-family homes. We're not a remarkably low-density city. We're actually pretty dense by suburban city standards. And many of these cities are in the arid West, and many are in the Sun Belt all the way across the country. And the difference between a suburban city and a more traditional city is that less of it is concentrated around the downtown, frankly. And because it grew up post-automobile, it has a more dispersed urban form. There is a school of thought, largely headquartered in the northeastern United States, I think, and maybe the Pacific Northwest, that the only cities that are sustainable are the classic high-density downtown industrial cities, that an urban fabric built around the automobile is going to be unsustainable going into the future because we won't be able to afford petroleum, because automobiles are wasteful, because we should rely more on mass transit. I think some of that is correct. It is more sustainable to live at somewhat higher densities. But you can't write off the way 80% of the American public live as unsustainable, or you're not going to rebuild the whole country in the image of Greenwich Village. It just doesn't work that way. So you got to think about the existing suburban form and make it more dense, introduce mass transit, introduce light rail as we have here, and then on top of that, you have to recognize that between alternative energy, electric cars, and autonomous cars, there is a future for the personal mobility vehicle that will continue to make the suburban form accessible to people.
With that, and with statewide plumbing, for lack of a better phrase here, in the way that we get our water, that I think a lot of people simply do not understand, between water banking and between the canals and the reservoirs with SRP and Colorado, between all of that, are you suggesting that maybe a new definition for sustainability is called for?
You know, one of the dilemmas of sustainability is it's a phrase everybody uses and nobody's entirely sure what it means. A dilemma when you say, is a place sustainable or not, is what is the place you're talking about? So what I found about these ratings of the sustainability of cities is they tend to look at a city, at that spot where the city is, and decide whether or not it's sustainable. And they look at things like, is the infrastructure keeping up with the people who live there? Well, that rating system disadvantages growing cities because they're always behind in building infrastructure. So on that scale, Detroit looks really sustainable and Houston appears to be in big trouble because they're behind.
Right.
Because they're behind on infrastructure. Well, that doesn't make very much sense. Yeah. So it seems to me you need to think about the logical resource area that supports a city. And Arizona is one of the most urban states in the union. We actually are very concentrated in terms of where people live versus the resource area that supports them. And I think if you do that and you begin to think of sustainability in a more logical geography, you translate to a better way of defining and viewing the sustainability of places.
But Phoenix does need to evolve, and it does need to change. People are they continue to flock here, and the population continues to increase. That has to put pressure on infrastructure.
It does. It puts pressure on all kinds of things. I think we need to find ways to become more dense, and I think we're doing that. If you think about Tempe, where I know you're very familiar with, we're getting lots of infill housing. Now that creates political tension between people who are in older single-family homes when they see the density that's coming in. But we need to become more dense. And let's use water as another exemplar here. We're going to have to start making tough choices about how we use water. Our past worldview has been, when we bump up against a limit, we need to go get more water. So we bumped up against an SRP limit, we needed to get the CAP funded. Well, we're going to bump up against a CAP limit. We bumped up against a groundwater limit, we passed the Groundwater Management Act. All of those together, we're going to bump up against a limit here before long. And we're going to need to make choices. Do we want agriculture to survive? Do we want to preserve the lifestyle of the people who live here, which includes private swimming pools and lush landscaping? Or would we rather have a lot more people here? What kind of industries do we want to encourage to move here? Can we find good jobs that are less water consumptive in character? All those things we have to start thinking our way through and dealing with. There are challenges to sustaining Phoenix. There's no question about that.
I know you're going to be at Changing Hands Bookstore tomorrow. The Phoenix or the Tempe location?
The Phoenix location.
The Phoenix location. Okay, you're there tomorrow night to talk much more about this.
Yes.
But as far as the book, who was the book written for? I mean, there are a lot of rebuttals in here. Even our conversation has been, you know, it's a casual argument. They don't really know what they're talking about, blah, blah.
Right.
Who's this book written for?
So it's really written for two kinds of people. One is for people from outside of Phoenix who want to casually dismiss Phoenix as a demographic mistake. Those people should never have lived there. That's one audience. The other audience is people in Phoenix, and the very specific message for them is the biggest challenge of sustainability for Phoenix or anywhere else is whether you are capable of making the decisions you need to make to deal with the challenges you face. We've been good at that here, about water, about transportation, about infrastructure, but the political dynamic that is operative in Arizona and in the United States in general today is not one of realizing that government is the solution to a lot of problems. We have this sort of mantra that government's the problem. And well, the history of Phoenix is not that government's the problem. We wouldn't be here but for collective action through government to make it possible. And we need to continue to recognize that.
I was going to say, in the book you mentioned that the impact of government policy on growth and on the history of Phoenix, it's huge whether people want to admit it or not.
Yeah, and frankly, but for the federal government and its investment in the territories of the arid lands of the West, we couldn't live here.
All right, so can Phoenix survive in the long run? I mean, will Phoenix hit build-out quicker than perhaps non-suburban cities, non-Western suburban cities?
Well, I think those are two different questions.
Okay.
So I think your first question is, can Phoenix survive in the long run? I think the answer is yes. Will we hit build-out earlier? I'm not even sure we really know what build-out means. So much depends on the way in which we choose to live in a place. I could do calculations for you that would show the possibility that Phoenix could have 10 million people in it. Do I think that's a good idea? Probably not. I would prefer it not be like that. I've been here a long time. I like what has happened in this city, but there's a point at which I'd rather preserve some of what we've had in the past even if it means we can't grow quite as far into the future.
All right, Grady Gamage, good to have you here. Thanks for
Always
joining
good
us.
to be here,
Again, the
Ted.
book, The Future of the Suburban City, changing hands tomorrow night in Phoenix.
In Phoenix, 7 o'clock.
All right, sounds good. Tuesday on Arizona Horizon, Phoenix Mayor Greg Stanton talks about his push for a new downtown sports arena, and we'll have a debate on Proposition 123, which asks voters to settle a lawsuit over inflation-adjusted education funding. That's at 5:30 and 10 on the next Arizona Horizon. That is it for now. I'm Ted Simons. Thank you so much for joining us. You have a great evening.
Arizona Horizon is made possible by contributions from the Friends of Arizona PBS, members of your PBS station. Thank you.
The Julianne Wrigley Global Institute of Sustainability is the heart of sustainability at ASU, advancing research, education, and business practices for an urbanizing world. You can learn more at sustainability.asu.edu/TV.